If you're a competitive person, it's very common to want to shore up any weaknesses you may have. When you think about how you'll go about advancing in your career, you might naturally gravitate to things that you don't do so well. It's great to be focused on growth and improvement, but don't get caught up in correcting your weaknesses so that you neglect and bolster the other areas of your strengths. One of the lessons I learned from one of my mentors when I was selling real estate was really simple and has stuck with me a long time. He told me, do more of what's working for me. A very interesting and simple concept, but one that's really important. It was a hard lesson to sink in at first. After all, I had so much to learn. We all have our personal strength. You're hopefully always expanding your areas of expertise and learnings. But be aware there are inevitably activities that we do in work and play that we enjoy and find more productive. These activities are the ones that we often are far more likely to excel at. If you enjoy doing something, it's much easier to arrive at that trance-like state of flow that you may have experienced before, in which the world falls away and you become totally and completely focused on what it is that you're doing. Success can be elusive in this world. When you find it, I encourage you to hold on to it. Build your own business, whether it's an online or otherwise. It can take a period of trial and error to figure out what works for you. But when you find that formula that's creating success for you, you should most often stick with it. And if you want more success, don't set out to reinvent the wheel or launch an entirely new venture or sales campaign from scratch. Instead, do more of what's already working. That doesn't mean that you don't take initiative and explore other ways to improve or grow. But while you do that exploring, you should also keep one foot in the realm of what led you to success to begin with. Continuing with more of what is working will give you the growth you need to continue to grow your success in the future. The same may also go for success and wins that have worked well for others. Entrepreneurs often fall into what I call a visionary trap. They work themselves into a lather, convincing themselves that they need to develop some great new groundbreaking service or product like nothing that anyone's ever seen before. They spend years and years trying to come up with something that is radical and new and completely visionary. Most times, they'd be far better served by merely following through with the fundamentals. There are countless examples out there of proven business successes. So why not take a page from what's being demonstrated that really already works? Instead of branching out into something new altogether, follow a recipe for success. You'll thank yourself in the long run by using a proven business model and executing on the plan. That doesn't mean that you don't look for areas where you can innovate and add your own special flavor, but there's no real need to start all over. The scripture tells us there's nothing new under the sun. I tend to think of Michael Jordan as the example in the sports world. He was at the very heights of his powers in basketball when he stepped down from the game in the 90s, who made a detour into a sport that he had first pursued as a young man, which was baseball. There were many reasons for this. Jordan was at an age where he was seeking a new challenge, which may be hard to believe for most of us who can only imagine what it would be like to be at the apex of a major sport, or in our given field of interest in general. Jordan may have wanted to reconnect with the memory of his late father, who had been a baseball fan. But for whatever reason, Jordan's detour into baseball didn't go well, as many had predicted. His brand took a major hit, and it was not long before he had returned to basketball, the sport he had dominated for so long, where he resumed the business of winning and excelling. I don't mean to pick on anyone who embraces a new challenge, but the fact is that Jordan gave up a lot by walking away during the peak performance years to pursue what most sports watchers rightfully described as a lark. You can go off and take these types of risks, but you need to be aware of what it is you're risking. By straying away from your core competencies and other great talents, you dilute your ability to focus on being the very best at whatever field it is that you have set your mind to. We see a very different dynamic play out all of the time when high-profile figures convince themselves that their success in one area naturally translates potential in a completely different field. But it often turns out that the singer is not so great at acting after all, or that the business executive would be better off by not straying into the political game. It might be an interesting and worthwhile endeavor for me, or to try my hand at computer programming or coding or another valuable skill. But I only have so much time in my day. So at this stage, I'm largely aware of my key strengths and what they are. That's why I have decided to double down on what has worked for me in my investments in real estate, online marketing, and other ventures. I can think of few better examples than in the story of Warren Buffett. History is full of stories of wealthy individuals who hit it big only to stray away from what they are good at because they convince themselves that everything that they touch will turn to gold. Warren Buffett is a notable exception because he believes in what he calls circles of competencies. Essentially, he believes in sticking to what has worked for him. This means that he only invests in businesses that he thoroughly understands. Some who have Warren Buffett's resources at their disposal would be tempted to gamble a bit on some passing fads or trends, especially in the tech space. But Warren has continued to plug away at investing in reliable, blue-chip stocks and investments that are not especially flashy or sexy. And by overlooking the passing trends that he recognizes he's not as versed in, he has managed to avoid straying away from his core successful enterprise strategy. He may have missed out on getting in on some of the hot tips, but that's the price you pay for focusing on what works. It means that you have to develop that inner patience and fortitude to not go swinging at every pitch that comes your way. Focus on hitting a few singles and making a few home runs. Stick with what works, do more of what works, and you will succeed even greater over the long term. You can learn more at my website, TonyNewmeyer.com, and register to receive free trainings and articles and more. Also subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on Facebook, and you can get a copy of my book, The 7-Minute Millionaire, at my website as well. So until next time, live rich.